Welcome to part one of chasing all the oil leaks. Might as well start at the top with the valve covers and the intake manifold gaskets on the Volvo XC90. There'll be another video of the timing covers next, but that should take care of the top. How the heck did we get this far in? It wasn't easy. All right, YouTube, today is the day. That has got to stop. Unacceptable. It's been sitting here for weeks. I got a big pile of parts on the oil. This is actually the timing cover seals kit, which includes the valve cover kit from FCP Euro, as well as 8 Volvo spark plugs to hopefully begin the process of fixing all of the oil leaks in the 4.4 liter V8 beast, the Yamaha. I have not been looking forward to this. There's so much that's got to come off of this. Access up here on this valve cover, that looks nice and convenient. This back here, down there where my hand just disappeared, that looks horrendous. Not looking forward to that. Also not looking forward to the timing cover down in here on the passenger side of the engine. And then I know the lower, it's got 2 sections on an oil pan on the bottom. The lower one needs to be repaired. That seal, I don't have that kit yet. But I was doing some research on the old Vita software on my diagnostic laptop. And lo and behold, you got to drop the subframe to get to the midsection or the upper section of the oil pan. So hopefully just the bottom cover on the oil pan is all I'm doing, because I think I can get to that without dropping the subframe. I know it's leaking. Let's see how far we got to go. So let's start taking parts off of this beast. I am disconnecting the battery, which is just kind of funny because I've been driving around in here with an extra quart just in case was driving this thing, in case all hell breaks loose and we got to get this thing limping home, leaking a lot of oil. Just pulled the panel off, going to disconnect this. I don't necessarily know that this is true, but there's going to be a lot of electrical connectors and grounds coming off, so just being safe, going to pop this off. Who knows if it'll ever get reconnected and started again. Place your bets down below. And let me give you a prediction of my own. All 3 of those other cars need to be in working order driving distances this coming weekend. Tonight's Monday night, so I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. One of those cars is going for a long haul. The other 2 need to be driving locally. And what are the chances? Here's my prediction. I'm going to get this pulled apart to the point of no return, and one of those 3 is going to go down for the weekend. You watch. All right, so I'm trying to follow along with the Vita instructions, and it basically starts when you go to valve covers. It says, see the instructions to remove the power steering pump, which is underneath this cover right there. There's the power steering fluid box or reservoir. And when you go to that instructions, it says remove the intake. And the first instruction on that is remove the crossbar. So it's kind of bouncing all over the place. So that's where we're going to start. Crossbar off, and then we're going to start taking off things, airbox, everything to get down to this, get this off. In that process, we'll have access to the power steering pump, and then start going deeper. Front's easy, back not so much. I don't know why, but disconnecting these 2 things just scared the crap out of me, because, yeah, that's the brains of everything. Disconnected. Feels like I'm taking apart the HAL 9000 hey, YouTube. There. I know you're tagging along, and it's frustrating, and I'm not knowing how to do this, and I'm way in over my head. But just a quick reminder, we're going to get to here. I'm waiting for you. Jump down right there. Hit the subscribe button. Then we can get on to the rest of this. Down there. Hit subscribe. Let's start with the simple ones. Getting the brake vacuum line off of the vacuum pump on the front. It's just a simple depressing of this green band. I started to pry it upwards, and I'm like, that isn't going to release that way. And then I realized if I took the screwdriver and pushed down on it, it went way down into the black housing, and you can kind of see it there. By pushing on the top, you can get it to reline up, and it just pops off of this little mounting surface there. So that is disconnected. All right, several steps ago, it said to disconnect the mass airflow sensor connector, but it is so crammed down in there. I'm pulling it from the bottom. Even with it up like this, it doesn't want to come loose. So I got to push that tab down and then get a little screwdriver in there and just kind of pry it off without breaking it. Much easier to do once I've remove the top of the air filter box. All right, front cover's off. You can kind of see it's kind of messy. Definitely got some leakage going on or seepage here on the front. But I just stuck my hand here on the back to find out where the edge the valve cover was for the back. So it's sitting at an angle like my hand. And down here on the bottom of it, I'm gonna run my finger along here and just bring it out and show you. Yeah, that's wet. That's oil. So I haven't got a good enough angle to see if the seal's even in place or ripped out or poking out or what. So the valve covers are off now. The servo cover, or they call it the servo, the power steering pump cover comes off. It's just two more of these little, I think they're actually broken actually, but there's two 25s, T25s, and that allows that cover to come off of the power steering pump. And we keep progressing. All right, the cover over the power steering pump, servo pump, is held on by two T30s. This one is stripped, but conveniently it was never tight, and it was just held on by this one in the back. Although, Volvo, we're skipping something because that ain't coming out. Yeah, it just said, hey, remove this piece of cake, right? All right, well, that's my fault, because the very first instruction ever, and I started jumping around finding other ones, was remove the power steering pump reservoir. So, let's go back to there, get this out of the way, and this hose will be out of the way, and that'll just lift right off. Magically. Pretty sure we're going to be replacing a lot of fluids on this one. We're going to, before I start driving it again, we'll redo the transmission fluid, because it's right here and easy to do. And I'll get the right Volvo stuff in there this time on a 3-liter, roughly 3-liter drain. This is going to be off the power steering pump, so we'll replace the power steering fluid. I'm about ready to drain the coolant I saw. So the coolant reservoir is going to be empty. We'll redo the coolant because that hasn't been done. All the oil is going to get replaced. That's all the fluids except for brake fluid. Maybe we just do that too. I was able to get that power steering reservoir off. Yeah, we're just going to completely drain and flush the entire system on here. As I put it back together, we'll take care of that at the end. Piece of cake, we'll just get the car in the air and just pump it back and forth manually, but I'm draining it all out. You can see here, it is not clean. It's been in there for a while. So yeah, we'll take care of all this all at once. Lots more fun coming up. Fun with cars never stops. Please don't spill. Please don't spill. And I just stuck this into a jug to get it to drain out of there. So yeah, aren't we having fun yet? That is our power steering fluid that just drained out of the reservoir. And can you believe it? We just found some more deferred maintenance on the Free2Me XC90 V8. Because that is supposed to be like a clear greenish tint oil. Yeah, that ain't it. All right, well, I still couldn't get the power steering cover off with that hose in place, so I just went ahead and took it off of the pump. We'll get it back on there later, but now this comes out easily. Look at that, power steering pump. Oh yeah. We're in the instructions for removing the intake manifold, and it said remove 2 vacuum hoses. One comes from here. Let's see if I can light this up. One goes on right there. That one's off. And one goes on right there. Because these two are what's preventing the intake manifold. So it's actually calling it a... what is it called? Check valve of the check valve of the distribution damper. Whatever the hell that is. But hopefully that's what I'm coming off, because this has got to come off, so those are connected to it. Apparently, according to Vita, we are now going underneath the car and removing the metal protective plate. This skid plate. We're going to take the 6 bolts off, 3 on each rail, slide it forward. I don't know that we remove it completely, but we need to get access to the radiator and drain the coolant. Yeah, more fun. It should be somewhere over here, I believe, if it's like the other P2. All right, let's add that bolt to the list of things to get at the junkyard. That's one of the 13s. I had to use an open-faced wrench to be able to get it off because the socket doesn't fit on it anymore. It has hit something hard, probably a parking curb. But yeah, let's go get one of those. Anyway, can you tell it's oily underneath there? Yeah, touch anything down there and it gets gross quick. It said that there were going to be 6 bolts holding that under tray on, or this metal shield. Mine only has 4. 2 on either side on the back, nothing up front. That's kind of weird. Look at that, I found the other 2 bolts, because with 4 off, I only found the 4 in the back, and there's another one that goes through this hole and it mounts into this upper part right there, through the subframe. So I'm not exactly sure how I got that off, because I was sitting here Indian style crissy-cross, and I pulled it apart, and it came forward and popped out. So what are the chances I ever get it back in? We will find out in the days, hopefully not weeks ahead. So I'm just going to stick you under the car somewhere back there, but for right now, you go there. Let's drain some coolant. That might have just been the most convenient part of my day so far, as I have the 13mm box or open-ended wrench because of the destroyed bolt head, and it fit on the drain valve for the radiator. But isn't this cute? What is this little thing right there? Is this like a little transmission cooler? It's tiny, teeny, teeny, tiny. All right, let's get this bad boy to drain. Quicker, quicker. Guess I could open up the radiator cap or the reservoir cap and let it get rid of some vacuum. That might help. Hang on, up top. There we go. Now we're moving. All right, we already talked about we're gonna change this coolant, but that's green. That is like, what is that, Prestone? This is a Yamaha V8 made for Volvo. So my assumption would be it would have the Volvo spec or European spec, the blue coolant. Or red for the Japanese spec, like the Toyota, since it's a Yamaha. But I'm assuming it's going to be blue. I was definitely not expecting it to be green. So this is like what? American V8, Prestone, Arctic, whatever. Yeah, who knows, but it's going to get changed. Next on our list of projects is remove the upper engine mount. We just put that in not too long ago, 2 months ago. Still looks to be holding up just fine. 4 13mm bolts. All the bolts are the same length on this car. Next up, we are removing the throttle body with this hose attached. So we're going to pull this vacuum line off of the manifold. Got to pop this Oetiker clamp, assuming we have a new clamp to put back on there in the kit. And then there are 2 screws and 2 bolts to get this throttle body off, and this hose is going to come off the way. And there's a couple coolant lines down in there on the throttle body as well. So I believe they're on the throttle body. We're about ready to find out. Oh my gosh, YouTube, that was on there so damn tight. But it does indeed just pull off. It spins freely, but it's just been shaped into the form of the nozzle. This might be the first reusable Oetiker style clamp I've ever seen. It just kind of slides across that ramp and locks in right there. So I might be able to reuse that one. We're going to save that on there for later. And there we can see into our throttle body with this just spun out of the way. Remember, the big side goes on the intake, the small side goes on the airbox. But we have 2 nuts right here and 2 bolts right there, and it comes off. One on the front, one on the front, one on the back, one on the back. And the throttle body will pop off of this V8 manifold. Pretty easy, just taking my time here. There is a gasket on the back side of the throttle body to the manifold. Not sure if I have a replacement one of those in the kit, so we're going to hold on to this for a minute. I know that you can pull these studs off with, I think it's an E46, or it's like a Torx bit backwards. And I actually have one from when I did the ABS system on the V70. I had one of those that came in the kit from Zomotics on the rebuild. So now I just have to bend this out of the way, the backside of the throttle body, and I got 2 coolant lines I got to pop off. So these guys right here got to come off. And then the throttle body is good to come off with a little disconnect back there on the electrical on the backside right here. All right, well, I just realized I removed a vacuum hose, which is this one that goes right here onto the throttle body. And what I need to remove is a coolant line that is right here, right there. There it is. Now you can see it. That's the coolant line that's got to come off, as well as this one right here off of the main manifold here for the coolant line. So this vacuum line didn't need to come off, but once I do all this and disconnect the electrical connector, I can get this out of the car, and before I put it back together, do a thorough clean with throttle body cleaner and get all the gunk out of here. Look how long this coolant line has been on the throttle body. That baby is like just, I bet that's since 2006. Probably original. Take it back. I'm pretty sure that those were both coolant lines for the throttle body. And then the other one I got to take off is right there. Let me see if I can light it up. It's coming off the main line manifold. I just got to pull that off and pop it off of there because it's going up in, apparently, it's this hose back here. It's going up into the bottom of the intake manifold. Isn't this fun? All right, from my reading of the instructions, I'm now taking out this non-return thing for the crank ventilation, as well as this right here, this vacuum hose, pulling the clamp off and the hose off of it, and then the manifold can come popping off. So yeah, I'm glad I take these videos because then I get to see what the heck I'm doing, and when I go to put this back together in a couple days and I've completely forgotten, I can look at these videos again and say, oh yeah, that's how I did it. And then it's also, I get to pretend I'm talking to somebody. when I'm really out here in the garage talking to my phone. All right, well, the screws are out, and this is loose, but I can't pull it out because of this hose attached to it. And you see the little silver band? Let me pull this vacuum line or coolant line, whatever the heck that was. See that? That little silver band on there? It's on the back side. So until I get this manifold up, I can't really get to that to pop the hose off of it. So we're going to do all that all at once, but it is loose, and it just won't come. It just doesn't move far enough to be able to pop out of its little insert there. So let's pull the 21 bolts off of the top of the manifold and see if we can pop that baby off. All right, well, this part's very confusing because Vita clearly says remove 21 screws holding the upper intake manifold. And I removed 16 small ones and 4 big ones. That's 20. So where's the 21st bolt? I'm not sure, but I'm afraid to pry up on this thing until I find it. Or I give up on finding it and see if it just starts rocking off. But I've got them all out. I don't see anywhere for another bolt. I'm gonna get a flashlight, go around here a little bit more closely, make sure I'm not missing something. But YouTube, I found the mysterious 21st bolt because it's wiggling on the front, but it ain't coming off the back. So I went around to the back, pulled on these little lines, and sure enough, that bolt right there, different than the others. It's a 10, looks like a 10 millimeter bolt with a hex head instead of an Allen head. So that's the one I think I'm missing. That's the 21st. Whew, glad I didn't pry on it. That was the magic bolt, because look, that's lifting off. This is wanting to lift off, but it's kind of stuck with all this. I got to figure out what I got to do in here to get that to relieve with this crank ventilation, whatever valve. All right, had some success. I was able to reach in there with a screwdriver and rotate this clamp on this hose. So I'm going to reach in here with a wrench, pinch that apart, get it off of there, and then I'm going to be able to separate that hose off of this ventilation, blowback, whatever valve. So yeah, thank you for rotating that the other direction, because that wasn't easy to get out. And I can't get the manifold off without that coming off of this valve and that valve coming out. All right, YouTube, some success. It is off. I didn't pull this hose off because I wasn't sure. It didn't seem to want to come off of its this valve. I just started wiggling with it, and I realized it can come out of this hole with just a little bit of wiggling. Popped it, it came out and just lifted, and everything fell off. I think I lost one of the manifold seals back there. One of them is still here. Yep, that's still there. These are all getting replaced, I'm pretty sure. So, fun stuff. Never been this deep inside the V8. So there's the lower intake manifold, fuel rails. All that's got to come off. I'm going to wait and do that tomorrow. Got to release pressure on the fuel system. But this is the furthest I've ever been in. I'm going to cover this up with a towel tonight so nothing falls down in there. That would be very bad. But there we go. There you can see the valve cover on the back. Oily mess that it is. So yeah, let's get this into the back of the car and we'll take a look at some stuff. YouTube, I feel that progress has been made. I'm a little tired. I'm taking my own sweet time. But now we can see down in here, we see fuel rail. All 4-cylinder intakes. They're not symmetrical, obviously, because the way this engine sits in here. That one's kind of interesting back there. We have the servo, that they call it, or the actual power steering pump. Gotta remember, I want to get this oil seal. Hopefully it came with the one in the kit. If not, I'm going to order that because I have a feeling that lower one was leaking. I replaced the top one. But we're starting to make progress. Tomorrow the fuel rail's got to get, got to release the pressure on the fuel rail system. I already replaced this. One of the first things we did because it was having a hard time reading the fuel pressure. So the fuel pressure sensor was done. Yeah, let's do some more work tomorrow. That's it for tonight. I'm tired, but I feel like I made some progress. Cover this up so nothing falls down there and ruins my engine. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm calling it a night. I'm going in with some success. I am in no hurry. I'm taking my own sweet time. Don't want to mess anything up because this is a complicated motor. I want to keep it on the road. The free Volvo needs to survive. Welcome back, YouTube, to evening number 2 in the sauna. It's hot, making me re-question my life choices because I think it was 1 year ago, June, July, August of 24, that I had all the open engine repairs on the Previa with the head gasket and the valve cover redo. Yeah, that was fun. So, yeah, I didn't learn very well because I'm back out here again in early August. So let's keep going. I think its next step is reduce or relieve the fuel pressure. So let's start there. All right, before I get started on this fuel rail, more bolts that could fall down inside, I'm stuffing all these paper towels into these inlets. Still got to take this lower intake manifold off. But I'm just looking at this cylinder, this inlet on the intake manifold looks great. And they all get a little bit worse. Obviously, this side's the worst of all. Wonder why? Is that because of the valve cover leaking the worst on that back side? And somehow it's all coming through to the crank case? I don't know. Or is it just piston blow by? Probably just piston blow by, but this one looked wet. Like they all look wet on the back side. And these look more like just like a varnish. And then this one looks pretty freaking good. Makes no sense. All right, well, an added bonus to having the car sit overnight, and just drove in here. Actually, all it drove yesterday was just for me to move it in here to get a little bit more access in the garage, back it up a little bit, get it back against the garage door, more space up front. But all the fuel pressure was pretty much relieved in the system. I know there's still going to be fuel in here, but it's just not under pressure. There's just a little cap, goes over the Schrader valve right there, and just use a little, I used a paper towel and a little tiny screwdriver and just pressed the little nipple on the inside, the needle, and it just released just a little bit. And then when I went to the back here at the fuel filter, which is underneath the car, just in front of the rear wheel, I replaced that when we first got it, due to some of the codes and just deferred maintenance that we knew was going on. And no pressure came out of that one, so nothing dripped out of it. So yeah, it's done. I came back up and tested this one again. Nothing's coming out. I mean, it barely even made a wet towel with the amount of fuel that came out. So let's go ahead and start taking this stuff off. Paper towels are stuffed in so I don't lose bolts into my intake. Yeah, baby steps. All right, it appears what's got to come off next is this connecting hose from the two cylinder banks for the crankcase ventilation. So the way I understand what's happening, and I'm sure you're going to comment down below if I get this wrong, this cylinder bank, the right-hand side, or left-hand side of the engine, because it's sitting that way, turn to the front. That's the front, this is the left, that's the right. So the front bank, on this case, is connected over to here, and it goes to this side, and then this is all part of the PCV system, I believe. Right here where it comes out on this side. So the two banks connect together. Maybe that's got something to do with this side being connected and this valve always being the cleanest. Don't know. But this is what's got to come off, two clamps. And then we're going to work on the fuel pressure rail and the fuel pressure sensor and get this off. There should be 3 bolts holding this on. And figure out what holds the injectors in. There's probably a little slider, or they pry off. I'm not yet sure, but we're going to figure it out. Well, 2 clamps and that came off with some little screwdriver, just working it in and prying the hose away without pulling on it. But it is already cracked, and this thing is hard as a rock, not flexible. This is probably 2006 sitting here. So I'm not sure if that came in my kit. Added it to my list of parts we got to add and get shipped out here before we put this back together, because that one is cracked. And this was on that side right there, so you can kind of see. Yep, you can see it's all over right there. It's been leaking for a while. Just went over and looked at my stack of parts over there. And sure enough, my FCP Euro timing cover kit, which includes all of the manifold seals and the valve cover seals, came with the new one. It would appear to be a Volvo 307-20098. Just got to reuse these clamps. Awesome, and it even has the little protective shroud on it. Yay! All right, the 3 bolts on the fuel rail that I have found are right here at the fuel pressure regulator mount for the sensor. And then I found one right there, coming off of this bracket, as well as one under here. And you can barely move these injector wires. I disconnected these 2 to be able to have some play in here. These 2 I can't really get to yet. And then, yeah, I'm not seeing any bracket connectors on this side. So I think those are the 3 bolts that take this off. I took this one off thinking it was one of the 3 right there, but it's actually the lower manifold mount, and it was like that long compared to those 3. So this one went to the sensor, and these 2 came out of the manifold. Good thing I had the paper towels in there because, well, they never came lifting out. They just fell because they're small little screws, and they just fell down in there, and I magnetized them and pulled them out. All right, so disconnected my fuel pressure sensor and the 2 screws that came with it, and I'm going to stick them in a Ziploc so I remember that they go together. And I was wondering where the fuel got to the fuel rail from, and it's right here on this little manifold. It's kind of interesting. How does it get to here? Haven't quite figured this out yet. I gotta do a little bit of research to see how this fuel gets to the bottom of the rail. There must be something coming in that I can't see. All right, been investigating this fuel delivery system, and it's coming through. This is the delivery hose coming from the fuel filter and the pump back at the tank, which is underneath, that goes underneath the manifold and around the back of the engine, right through here, comes in. This is the fuel pressure sensor. That is liquid fuel sitting there that we can mop up here in a minute. And then it comes out right here where my finger's at. So the one coming in, right next to it, one coming out, and it goes into, can you see that? Right there, a little metal back in. So right in there, down there, where my finger's touching, is a metal that comes up and into the tube for the fuel rail inside the two halves of the intake manifold. That's how it works. All right, sure enough, I found a third bolt. It is right off of this little bracket. I don't know how I missed that. Right where my finger's at, you can see there's a bracket, goes down to a bolt. Bracket goes down to a bolt. I didn't see this bracket in the dark. It was all kind of cruddy. And then it's totally hidden down there. You can barely flex that away to get a 10mm on there. So there's 3 of the small ones, 1 big one that went through there. Now it should come up. But it's weird how the Vita instructions overlap, because there's totally different fuel injector replacement instructions from the cylinder head, and it never tells you to go to these. It's kind of funny. I found these in a different place. All right, so fuel rail removal is terrifying because it feels like you're going to bend a whole bunch of pipes that you can't really easily replace. But once I started tipping it up, I used a little pry bar with the plastic cover, lightly leveraged underneath there completely so I could pull straight up, and just shook it with one hand and pried a little bit, and they started popping across. So it does come free. It took me a lot of guts reading different forum posts to be able to do that, because that was terrifying. I did put the fuel pressure sensor back in there so it could just seal these 2 fuel lines. I disconnected this one, this little mount right here, so that I can get this hose to move out of the way and that injector can come up. So now I should be able to tip this and get it out of the way like the directions say. Cross my fingers. All right, just to show you I'm not perfect at everything, don't do what I did, because these 2 injectors are still sitting right there. I slid out these little clips thinking that those had to come out for the fuel rail to come off the tops, not understanding that it wanted me to pull it out of the bottoms. So I'm kind of cleaning all these off so I can see the green little O-rings are all present because everything was black and hard to see. So I cleaned these all off. I got to figure out how I'm getting these 2 guys out now that they're disconnected. Yeah, we'll figure this out, and hopefully they just kind of pop loose. I'm crossing my fingers because they're sitting right there. All right, that wasn't that bad. They are out. They are both right here. I've already cleaned them up. This one goes there, and that one goes there. I'm going to put them back where they came from. They were pretty easy. Just reached in and grabbed them here and just gave them a vibration steady tug, and all of a sudden they pulled right out. Wasn't that big of a deal, but you don't pull these brackets off that lock them on to the fuel rail, because unless you do this, you're not going to be able to get that back on because you can't get it lined up and see what you're doing. All right, so really carefully, you need to reach up in here and grab the O-ring that is sitting inside there, because it stays when that, I think it's called a pentel, pops out of the top. So there's an O-ring right there. You can just see it. I haven't pulled that one out yet, but this one I did pull out, and then you can put it over the top, and it has a I think it's called a pentel cap, that little plastic cap that just retains it. So you're not going to get that while it's inside this housing to push through. It's just too much pressure. You can't do it. So you got to do it like this, and then slide the whole thing in, and then slide the clip on right there that keeps it from coming apart. Don't do it the way I did. This is complicated. I'm probably, when I put all these back together, going to get new washer kits for the for these fuel injectors. I thought it was a 3-wash O-ring kit that came with each one, though, not 2. That's interesting. Learn from my mistakes, people. That was a major pain in the arse. You don't want to be losing these little small pieces in those O-rings. All right, returning from fuel rail injector instructions in Vita to intake manifold removal, which is a subset of power steering pump removal, which is a subset of what I start in. Valve cover replacement. So now I got to take off the lower manifold. It's not attached to the valve covers. It's floating above them. And there's apparently 12 screws, one of which I've already taken off, but I don't think that counts. So I don't see 12 Yeah. All right, we'll see how this goes. Crossing my fingers I can find them all. All right, well, I haven't found no 12 bolts, but I'm pretty loose. Everything's wiggling around. I have exactly the 2 long ones, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, 2 long ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there is a 10th bolt right below the power steering pump, and I cannot get to it. You can just see it shiny there. Can't get into it even with my 1/4-inch drive and the smallest 10mm head I have that goes on the 1/4-inch drive socket won't even fit through there. So I'm kind of stuck. Yeah, but you can see everything's free. There was another bolt here, and I'm not sure what the heck the other one could have been to be the missing 12th bolt, but it's free. Everything's lifting. There's nothing else holding it on. So yeah, confused. Power steering pump is gonna have to come off to get to that because I don't see any other way. All right, to get back in here for the power steering pump to come off, I gotta get the accessory belt off. I gotta get in there to relieve the tension on this heavy duty spring, and it has a dampener in it, so you gotta put tension on it and hold it for a while so the dampener can release. I'm gonna get this completely out of the way since the coolant is completely drained. Gives me a chance to get a flashlight up to this and see if it has any hairline fractures. These are cheap to replace. I think it's 25 bucks for an aftermarket one for a Mealy OEM replacement. So yeah, we'll get this out of the way, disconnect some hoses. Looks like an Oetiker clamp here, but those are easy to replace with a band clamp. Yeah, more progress to be made. All right, access is way better. According to the power steering pump removal, I gotta take off this line. And then I can get access to down in there to relieve the tension on the belt and pop the belt off, and then that thing should pop free. That's the plan. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but it's a lot easier to access without this in there. Without the coolant reservoir. Oh my God, YouTube, I slipped the belt off of there. That was one of the most crazy looking things I've ever done. My long impact sockets, the 19, will not fit in there. It doesn't even slide onto the 19mm. You have to get a hold of, let's see, oh, I broke my lens. Put my elbow through it. All right, you have to get a hold of that 19mm all the way. It's like a nub on the front, not the one that's a hex, or not an Allen insert. It's the hex bolt looking thing. So it's got a dampener on it, and you got to put tons of pressure on it to get it to release the oil or whatever is holding it in there. And as you put more and more pressure on it, it slowly will let you move it further and further and further. To get enough pressure on it and hold it there, this is what I used. I couldn't get my 19-inch long impact driver in there. It doesn't fit, so I had to use a regular with this little extension and a wobble. And then I couldn't hold it long enough to get far enough. I was able to get, you know, most of the way where I could get some slack in the belt, but not enough to pop it over the tops. What I did is I slid. It doesn't go back right away, so I let go of it, walked over to the wall, pulled off my 22, slid it over the handle. You can see where I chewed into it right there. And just with the extra leverage, was able to, within about 30 seconds of holding it, slide it enough, I just popped it right off the top. Will I ever get it back on? Whew, might need help. We'll see. Check it out, YouTube. 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3. There you are. Just you rotate this so you can see them. 1, 2, and 1 is right there. Only uses 3 of the 4 mounts. Kind of sits in there a little crooked like that. And it actually sits on the back side of the bracket, and the bolts go through the bracket to mount and drill or screw into it. So yeah, I put them on there. I will drain out. It's still got brake fluid in it. We'll just let it drain itself out and clean it up later, so we can get a full brand new. But what's kind of cool, it's my first ever view down into the valley on my V8, Yamaha 4.4 liter V8. I don't think the power steering pump is what's leaking. I think it's just valve covers and everything. So a lot of cleanup to do, but I don't think it's power steering pump. And if this all goes to plan, that's my last lower manifold, intake manifold bolt, and this whole thing lifts out. We put new paper in all the insert holes in there. Keep it out of the cylinders. Cross my fingers. That was the easiest part of the evening. I haven't put any paper towels down in there. I just wanted to show you what I'm looking at here. It's a bit gross. A lot of oil blow through and crud and varnish in there. My God. That is, it doesn't even reflect light. It is so bad down in there. And then obviously we're looking down into the cylinders now, into the cylinder heads, down to valves. It's the first look we've had at it. This is in the valley. It's I've never been in this deep. Yeah. Okay. There's what do? Just keep putting in some BG whatever cans and in the oil and hope we get rid of some varnish. I really don't know. Hopefully that's just deferred maintenance and it's going to improve since we're doing good oils and hopefully taking better care of it. Just for some, so I don't get yelled at in the comments, I stuck 3 paper towels. They're still together. I mean, they're perforated, but 3 paper towels in each of the 8 inlets into the cylinder head. And I can now see all the hose lines for the fuel on the fuel rail. We'll go back to start following some directions and valve covers come off. I might progress a little bit on these electrical and get all this pulled off the top of the valve covers. Maybe we'll get this one off the front. Boy, it's a lot easier to see now that it's still not easy to get to on the back one. But man, it's a lot easier than just to see than it was with the covers in place. You kind of get an idea of the proportions. Whew! First glimpse at the timing chain on the dual overhead cam on the left bank. Just pulled off that, and indeed that O-ring on that oil infill right there is very old. Took off some nuts here, a nut down there, another nut there. It's holding all of this together. This was a brace. They're all in a baggie over there. They're going to keep them all together. And then just got to pull a bracket off. And then I need to get these nubs off that hold on. Jesus, can you even see what I'm looking at? These nubs that hold on the valve cover, the beauty cover. They're just a 13 or a 14. I think they're a 14. I just got to pop those. But now I got some wiggle room here. I can pop the coils off, fold that back. Yeah, progress. This is going quick now that I can see this side. That side's going to be more difficult. All right, so the 2 little nubs came off, but you can tell that the plastic mounts are cracked. They weren't even that tight. I think it's just really, really old and brittle. But when I took the first one off, I heard a bunch of stuff falling. Obviously, it was the plastic brittle part. When I took the silver one off, it sounded plastic, and then something sounded metal. And when I took the second one off, I was very careful. There's a little metal washer gap that's supposed to sit inside that plastic, and it's missing. So anyway, these just need to be finger tight. They're not super tight. They're just snug. So maybe I can find that other one down there after I get some stuff apart. I heard it click and click and click, but what's the chances it's sitting down there in the muck and I'll never ever see it again. I have bad reading comprehension skills, which I don't think I do, but these directions leave a lot to the imagination. Had to figure out how to get this bracket off, pop this thing off, and then I was able, this goes there. Flip that completely out of the way. It's just connected by the fuel supply line. Yeah. And then what else we got going on here? So this is free now. There was a bolt that I had to access from over in this way. That came off the top once that other bolt was off. So the valve cover is free. Connected down there on the electrical connector. I think that's going down to the AC compressor. I had to make a guess, but I'm able to get in here and get all the bolts. So let's pull these. Let's take a look and let's see if a spark plug will come out. Let's see how fouled up these are, because it's, look at this, oil's leaking out of here too. It's just got oil leaks everywhere. YouTube, look at that. I think I might call it a night. I'm just going to give you a quick warning if you're following my video to do this. There's a little silver cap. There's one on here. This one's not popping off. These are little rubber grommets for the bolts to go through to mount this on. And there's a little silver cap, and they're so gross and disgusting you don't even see it. That's what they look like. But when I picked this up, a couple of them fell. I think I found them, but I'm not 100% sure I found them all. So I'm going to be scouring everywhere in here to find and make sure I don't have any drop down in there. I think one might be down in here still somewhere. I already found one down in there on the subframe. So I'll keep looking for them before I put this back together and count how many I have, because I have one still on here. There should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and the 7th one is sitting right there. So yeah, this comes off. It is gross and dirty. I'll just flip it over real quick so you can see. Lots of patina, lots of crud. When I get this thing back together and running, I think I'm just going to throw another patina cleaner. I'll probably clean these with gasoline and just a brush, nylon brush, and see if I can get that off before I put it back together. But it's yeah, it's mostly up in here, cooked on, caked on. A lot of oil leak going this direction down the front of the, or the back side, the front back side of the engine. So the left rear side of the engine, since that's the front over there. Yeah, it is off. I'm going to call that a night. I now know what I got to do on the back one. I got a lot of fuel lines and stuff that are in the way still, and some things that got to come off. But now that I know what I'm doing, hopefully it goes easier. These are terrifying to pop free. The ignition coil connectors, or the ignition coil connectors. They feel brittle. They are not. I already pulled the seal off. The seal is right here, and it just cracks away. You can hear it just popping. It has no flexibility anymore. See that crack? That thing is old. Kind of funny, but it's like one big piece. It's rubbery. It's rubbery in places. Oh no, it's just cracking. It's just a little bit more flexible, but still dry and cracking. Pulled it all apart already. Yeah, that's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Lots of cleaning to happen. But now I can see where my edge of my timing cover is. The timing cover has some really old brittle seals. That's some old RTV of some sort that was just kind of sitting on here, and it just kind of came off in my hand. Yeah, so there's the edge. This edge right there where my finger's at is the timing cover forward, and the engine block, or that's the cylinder head on the back. And then, but basically this entire section from here forward is coming off this engine to reseal the timing covers. So it's been a while. Ironically, there is no oil down in the spark plug holes. I'll worry about those tomorrow, or let them stay for a couple days. I'm not too worried about it. YouTube, I just got so lucky. I counted. There were supposed to be 7 of those little metal grommet covers, and I was missing one. I had one still attached. It's not coming off. It's kind of stuck to the valve cover. And then there were only 5. So that's a total of 6 in my bag of my parts. So I started looking everywhere, freaking out that it had fallen down in there somewhere. And I shined a light, and lo and behold, it landed shiny side up on the back side of the fan shroud. Little magnet, quick, got it. I have all 7. I'm so lucky. Be smart. And just like that, YouTube, I'm back for day 3. Let's see if we can spend a little bit more time on it without being exhausted at night, put some more energy into it, get the rear valve cover off, the timing cover off, and have some more fun. All right, since I got easy access, and this is going to make it easier to do stuff, I ordered new O-rings for the fuel rail for the injectors. I ordered new radiator hoses, upper and lower on the radiator hoses. I ordered new coolant tank cap and sensor. And then this hose right where this I stuck the valve right on it, but this was bulged coming off the reservoir tank, so I just replaced all 3 of them. I'm gonna go ahead and do that since I am here, and these, who knows how old they are, so we're just gonna do it now. Yeah, those parts should be here in a week or so. A lot of parts coming in, and we're gonna continue. All right, YouTube. So I couldn't help but notice, but down in, let's see if I can get a little screwdriver. Down in here in the valley, it's like a bunch of oily leaves. So Mother Nature was trying to help me out and soak up some of this oil leak. Pretty sure those are leaves. But before I run a vacuum cleaner through here, I do have this handy dandy magnet on a stick with a little light. So I'm just going to stick it down in here and see if I find any bolts that are loose and strays from somebody else being in here before I vacuum all this up, and wish I would have had here a bolt go up the hose, and don't really want to go open the shop vac to figure out what the heck that was. Just running a magnet through here, see if I got anything. I'm all in the oily leaves. There it goes. Nothing. All right, good. So we'll just suck that up the vacuum cleaner. All right, YouTube. Well, I feel better about myself. I just hate looking down in there and feeling gross and leaves and everything like that. You can actually see light coming through down there below where the power steering pump would be. So this, what I removed was right here. I removed the ground wire. I even cleaned that up. It's now gray instead of black and oily. Disconnected the 2 knock sensors that go right there. Those 2 mount on top, and I believe that they are mounted on top of the balance shaft running in that tube in there. And in 2006 they updated these, so you have that vacating hole right there, and I believe it does the same thing here on the back, but I can't get down there to light it up with all the stuff in there. So I'm pretty sure I can see it going down into a void. so water can get out and it doesn't get in there and rust out the bearing on the balance shaft for a V8. So yeah, these were improved from the 2005s when they first came out, but you can see, yeah, that's probably how the leaves are getting in, and then they're getting in around the power steering pump as well. But there's little gaps where a little debris can blow its way in there. That feels much better. The other thing I noticed yesterday, just gotta say this out loud, is the fuel line coming in and the fuel to the pressure regulator and the fuel line going out of the regulator to the fuel rail. None of them have clamps. Is that normal? Feels a little odd because it's got a specialty clamp back there on the back side of the valve cover. Just feels a little bit like there should have been something there clamping it. But all right, well, I'm still stuck at these fuel lines and just realized I need a specialty quick release wrench. So apparently I looked online and it's a 5/16 will work. This was $10 at AutoZone. I love the directions on the Vita because it basically says take off the front one. It's described everything how to get there, and then it points to the back one and it says take that one off. You're on your own. All right, YouTube, here's an update. I'm flying along blind. My fuel line breaker, it's the 5/16, the small one. It's a little bit too heavy duty profile because these edges bump out just a little bit too far. So by creating just a little bit of slack, we're loosening some bolts down here on the front of the timing cover, getting this stuff all out of the way. I was able to maneuver this just enough and get that thing to clamp around. So if you get a low profile one or a specific Volvo one, it'd probably be better. Smaller profile, the better. Yeah, the fuel rail is gone because as soon as I disconnected this one, it came out. This one's going around over to there. I have two ground wires, one right here where my finger's at, coming off of the coil wires, and another one right there where my finger's at. So I was able to get them off the front without breaking them. And now that I can see them, I think I can put my finger on the back and keep it from spinning. So what are the odds I can do this? All right, that one I was able to just hold it with my finger and with the 10mm socket wrench driver, just pop it without it spinning. That one popped, but yet it's still attached and it wants to spin, and it's digging into my finger a little bit. So I sprayed it with some PB Blaster. Might try a screwdriver back there or a pry bar just to hold it in place as I see if I can get it to pop free. All right, well, I got lucky on one ground wire for this ignition coils, but not that back one. This is what came out. The top nut is fused onto the thing. They've just bonded together. And when I put a 10mm on the nut, the whole thing came out. On the front one, I was just able to get the nut. So what I had read online is everybody was saying, just cut these. Don't even bother with them. Just cut them as close as you can to here. Have enough wire that you can patch it in if you need to, and just create a new ground and then reassemble it when you get it together. Now that it's out, I can put two 10s on there and just pop it apart. But I will have to fix that when we go back together. So yeah, ignition coils should be free to lift off. All right, well, it leaves a lot to the imagination, but Vita's telling me that all I had to do was undo this little bracket down here right above the alternator, which is oily. We got to get that cleaned up. That's one of the reasons I'm getting this done as quick as possible. So that doesn't have to come out because that is an engine drop, pretty sure. Anyway, or it's a subframe drop and work on the back of the engine with it supported, which we might be doing anyway, depending on the oil pan situation. So there's supposed to be enough flex in this that I can get this valve cover to come off. Everything is off. It's disconnected. I wish I had more play over there on that side with some wires to move around, but I don't. So I'm just going to start popping the 10mm valve cover bolts. And now I know that they all came with this little silver caps on the grommets. And actually my new set came with new grommets and new silver caps. So interesting. I'd like to think I'm getting smarter from that front valve cover experience. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 7 rear valve cover bolts are out. I went ahead and with a little small screwdriver pried all of these out so there's no parts falling when I lift that valve cover off. Gotta go get this piece. It all came out together on this one. Got lucky, but this one that I had to cut the wire on for the ground, it's still in the back. I can't see it, so I gotta reach back in there blind and kind of try to pull it out before I lift that valve cover off and start wiggling it around. It's got to get over the top of these and out from under this. Yeah, and then this is barely movable. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to happen. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh wait, this one is missing. This one's missing. Glad I saw that. It's missing that little piece of metal. And that's the close one right here, right where my finger's at, right there. So let me see. Oh, there it is. Nope, that's the cover. I got my finger on it. I'm gonna use a magnet. I can feel it back there, but I just wasn't comfortable grabbing it, so I just reached in there with the magnet, lifted it up, pulled it out with a little magnet on a wand with a little flashlight. This little guy is a miracle worker. Should be good to go to wiggle that free and see if we can get it off and out. Dude, let there be success! That is gross. Now you can see the patina in there, all the oil residue, just disgusting. This actually is not as bad as the front one was. This front corner of the front one was really bad. I think it's been leaking all the way down onto the exhaust. There she is. I tucked this down. It's very brittle plastic for that harness. And then was able to pop that side and just swing it up and rotate it into the valley and get it out of there. So there's just enough wiggle room on these fuel lines to do it. This one's totally free and popped out of its thing. Yep, that should make it easier to fix some ground. There's my bare ground wires right there, and this is what it's supposed to look like. I just got to repair that with very little access. Son of a... Yeah. Thought that would come out a little bit more. All right. Yep. Well, going to start cleaning this up, sucking up some oil in there. It is not going back together yet because the whole timing cover has to come off. And that is going to be the next video. This is going to be a wrap for this one. I got it this far. Oh my God. And just like that, it wasn't easy, but they're off. That lets us get to the top oil leaks. Now we got to work on part 2. That'll be another video coming soon. Taking off the front for the timing cover. But right now, I'm pretty happy where it's at. I didn't think I'd be able to do it. YouTube can give you a little bonus footage. Yeah, these variable valve timing solenoid seals that go, this is the rear bank that just came out. The front one's sitting over there still. The new timing cover kit comes with new ones of these. They have a metal spring inside of them, and they also have a black metal band. And basically, there's no instructions on how to get these damn things out. They are glued in and fried in. These are definitely original. Very carefully, I pried in here and started getting that metal band to lift away. And then you can start flexing it. See how that wants to flex? Now I can reach in there with a pair of pliers, grab a hold of it, and just pull the whole thing out with the old rubber. That's how I got this one. And then, yeah, it's going to seal on the bottom and then around the edge. So just be really careful not to dig in there and mar anything up. Bonus feature, baby. That's what they look like. That's the front one, I believe, with the oil fill tube. And cleaned up a bit. Yeah, just some elbow grease on it. Looks pretty damn good. I should be able to tell where it's leaking from here on out. Although I did see this right along this bridge. Looks to be a little hairline crack. I can feel it. Or is it just a casting? And when I flip it over, that would be in here. There's nothing. So we'll just keep an eye on it. All right, it's cleaning up a little bit. This one was definitely worse. This is the front one. There's my oil fill tube right there. Every single one of these was just caked. This entire 2/3, 3/4, 75% of it, 3 out of 4, this was just caked in places like 3 millimeters thick. Like that is on there so, like I'm actually scraping it with like a little itty bitty screwdriver just to have an edge. And you can see, look how cruddy this was. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I bet the oil pickup tubes and everything are all nasty in the bottom of the oil pan. Yuck.